Hi everyone. This is a little introduction to your next activity. You're going to be learning about some statistics in Canada that relate to family life in our country over the last 100 years-ish. So you're going to be shared this Google presentation, which you are then going to fill out for yourselves. There's a link here to an article you need to click on to the PDF to get there. It's called 100 Years of Families, and it's by the Vanier Institute of the Family, who are an organization in Ottawa that just do a lot of sort of digesting, if you will, of StatsCan data, and then they publish it for people like you and I to read and understand what the heck is going on in our fabulous country. So you can see here you have the four statistics that you're going to track over the 100-year period. Please read this carefully. Family size is births per woman, not the fertility rate, which is births per 1,000 population. You may see those terms used interchangeably, but we want births per woman. So you're going to have numbers like 2, 6, that kind of thing. The divorce rate, you're looking for a number of divorces per 100,000 population. There's a number early on in the article from early in the 1900s where they use per 10,000. Just ignore that. Don't put it on your graph. Pretend it doesn't exist because it's not the same, so we can't graph it all together. Marriage rate, there you go, and the age at first marriage of both men and women in years. Okay, here's what I did. I've done this activity, and I'll show you some examples of what I got up to. I started by pulling up the information source, and then what I did was I created these 4 pieces of paper, which each have a title at the top of which rate I am trying to keep track of, and then there's different years here, the numbers, and then the reason why. It doesn't matter that you can't read my handwriting because it's not very close up. My handwriting is horrible, so even if you could see it better, you wouldn't be able to really read it or understand it. In any event, there are years, numbers, and then reasons why these different statistics are going up and down over time. Oh, that's interesting. So I had these 4 pieces of paper, and as I read, I just kept flipping back and forth between them so that I ended up with a nice summary for myself, because the article does talk about, it doesn't sort of go through the divorce rate for 100 years and then go to the marriage rate. It sort of flips all around. So you have to sort of be careful and try and keep track of a bunch of things at once. So I sort of went old school with a pen and some scrap paper. Oh, I don't know how I'm doing that, but that's interesting. Okay, then I want to talk to you a little bit about making these graphs. You're going to make line graphs. And of course, with any good graph, even though it isn't math class, we still have to make a y and an x-axis. So along the x-axis, you would have time. And along the y-axis, the first thing I want to point out to you is that you need to look at your data first, get all of your numbers first, and then figure out what this should look like. So for instance, if you're looking at age of first marriage, you don't need to have from 0 to 100 because it's unlikely that on average, in the last 100 years or so, Canadians were getting married at, on average, for the first time, age 12 or age 50. So look at your numbers and then use your full piece of paper for your graph and try and make it so that you'll have something you can see on the graph. If you plot age of first marriage because it's not a very large gap on a graph from 0 to 100 years, you're basically going to see a straight line across. But if we exaggerate the graph, which oftentimes can be misleading, but for us, we're just trying to see what's going on, and we want to see the dips and the hills and the valleys in these statistics. So go ahead and exaggerate your graph so that we have something to see. So those units of measure on the left-hand side are going to be different, and your scale is going to be different depending on which graph you're doing. So you're going to make 4 different graphs, one for each of those statistics. So this, it says right here, it's a fake graph about TV viewing habits. It has nothing to do with anything in our course, but it does illustrate our point. So I've got the years on the bottom. These are the number of, on the left-hand side, the number of hours of TV watched daily per person. So as you can see, there's a lot of change in this. So what I did next was plot my data points. So wherever it sort of peaks up and down, those were data points. and then I made my graph. I just connected all the dots. Then what I did is I went back and looked at my notes, my pretend notes about pretend TV viewing habits. Those notes don't actually exist, but anyways, and I made up a bunch of nonsensical reasons why TV viewing habits would have gone up and down. So for me, this is what I would call an annotated graph. We're adding some information. So here we have that in the early 1900s, that's 1950. There weren't very many TVs and there weren't very many shows to watch, so people were hardly watching any TV at all. Then in the early 60s, there's a lot more TVs in people's houses. There's more programs to watch, so the numbers spike. They go down in the early 70s because there's some sort of bizarre global power surge which destroyed all the TVs on the planet. So we get all the way down to zero. No one's watching anything. Fairly quickly, we recover from this. TVs are then sold really, really cheaply. They're easy to run. And students are simultaneously encouraged to watch a lot of TV at school. Wouldn't that be nice? In order to learn. And so this number goes crazy. Then we see a little bit of a dip. There's a slight economic downturn. People are selling their TVs. They got to get rid of them to get money for food and stuff. It goes back up. The economy bounces back. People are encouraged to watch TV as for family bonding. So there's a societal influence pushing people to watch more television. We see a big dip here because of the environmental issues around TV and hydro usage, and partly because of that, but for other reasons, it becomes very shameful to watch TV. Maybe the programming is horrible, and so people are considered to be stupid if they watch too much TV. Whatever it is, there's societal pressure to not watch TV. And then as that stigma sort of eases off, we see another increase. So the reason I wanted to go through those reasons is this. Once you have completed your 4 graphs and put them into your ever so lovely slideshow, so you're going to add more slides and you're going to add your, what I would do is I would take those photographs and put each one in one slide. And then at the end, what you're going to see is some themes that are going to emerge. The same sort of reasons for numbers going up and down might be similar depending on, even though it's a different stat. So some of the same things that happen in Canada to our population influence family size, marriage rate, even age at first marriage, later on the divorce rate. So I'd like you to, at the end, pull out these themes. So you'll have one slide that'll just have some text on. Absolutely feel free, if you have time and are interested in figuring out how to do all this electronically. A friend of mine at work was talking about you should just be doing a Google drawing, but I was already halfway through my handmade, lovely paper marker extravaganza of graphing, so I just kept at it. In any event, you need to get to the end here for these themes because those are going to show up on one of the next things that will be marked for this unit. So no, there's not marked for this. There's no rubrics. There's no due date. Well, it'll be in a certain week of the course. But anything that you're doing should end up being part and parcel at some point of an evaluation. So just like you keep track of your notes, you do the activities in a face-to-face classroom, the same thing applies online. Not everything is marked, but everything needs to be done because you need to be learning. All right, enjoy.